The war had ended, but peace did not come with smiles. It came with silence, tension, and strange traditions. On the far desert planet of Vero 9, a human base stood quiet under the sunless sky. Wind blew across the sand, carrying dust and the sharp memory of battles long finished. Tarek was a soldier, not the kind who liked talking or being noticed. He followed orders, repaired his gear, and stayed away from celebrations. So when the message came that the Shari Empire was sending honor gifts to chosen human soldiers, he did not think it had anything to do with him. Gifts from aliens, it sounded like nonsense. But that afternoon, a hovercraft arrived at the edge of the base. It was long and silver, its surface covered in glowing lines. Two Shari guards stepped out, tall and wearing armor made of glass-like plates. Between them stood a small figure with light blue skin and long silver hair. Her eyes were wide, and her arms were tied in front of her. She looked like she wanted to run. A human officer came to Tarek's room with a data pad. "You've been assigned a Shari gift," the officer said without emotion. "Female, young, unarmed. You're to take responsibility for her and report." Weakly, Tarek blinked. "I didn't ask for this. None of us did," the officer said. "Just follow the treaty." Minutes later, Tarek stood at the edge of the landing platform, watching the girl step down slowly from the craft. Her eyes locked on his face. Her hands trembled. The guards gave a short bow and left without a word. The girl was now his problem. Tarek said nothing. He simply turned and walked toward his shelter, a small metal structure built near the power towers. The girl followed him, her head low, legs shaky. Her name was Rena. In her mind, humans were monsters. She had heard stories, creatures with no scales, with teeth made for meat, who destroyed planets and took slaves. Her people had whispered these things during the war, when she was taken from her family and told she would be sent as a gift. She thought it meant sacrifice. She believed she was walking into death. Inside Tarek's shelter, everything was quiet. The room was small. One side had a bed and shelf. The other had tools, wires, and old gear. In the corner was a folded mat and a gray blanket. Tarek pointed to it. "You can sleep there," he said. Rena did not speak. She sat on the mat and wrapped the blanket around herself tightly. Her eyes watched Tarek's every move. He opened a packet of dry food, sat on the floor, and began eating slowly. He didn't look at her. Her heart pounded. Was he waiting for her to sleep before hurting her? Was he pretending to be calm? Her claws were small, her arms weak. She had no way to fight back. Tarek finished eating and stood. He picked up another food packet and walked toward her. Rena tensed, her back hit the wall. He paused, held the packet out, and waited. When she didn't move, he placed it gently beside her on the floor and walked away. He didn't force her. He didn't shout. He just turned off the main light and lay on his bed. In the dark, the wind outside howled across the metal walls. Rena did not sleep that night. She stayed under the blanket, holding her breath every time Tarek shifted in his bed. The food packet stayed beside her, untouched. The next morning, Tarek woke early. He stood, stretched, and left the shelter to check the power lines. Rena was alone. She looked around. The door had locked behind him. She was trapped, but for now, she was safe. Carefully, she opened the food packet. Inside was a small bar of dry fruit and grains. She sniffed it. No strange smell. She broke off a small piece and tasted it. It was sweet. She stared at the packet. For a long time, why would a human give something sweet to someone he planned to hurt? She ate the rest slowly, her stomach quiet for the first time in days. When Tarek returned, he saw the empty packet in the trash bin. He said nothing, but when he sat to eat his lunch, he opened two packets this time. One he kept, the other he placed in front of her again. Then he left the shelter. Rena blinked. Was he feeding her? Not just once, but again. Days passed like this. Rena said little. Tarek said less. He worked on machines, cooked simple meals, and gave her space. She began to watch him, not as a monster, but as something else. He moved with calm. His face was strong but not cruel. He never touched her, never raised his voice. He even gave her a clean cloth when she coughed from the dry air. One night, the wind outside grew louder. The power flickered. Tarek frowned and went outside to fix the generator. Rena peeked through the window. She saw him working under the dark sky, hands steady, eyes focused. He returned with dust all over his uniform, face tired. The lights came back on. He walked past her, opened a cabinet, and pulled out another blanket. He tossed it to her gently. "You'll need it. Cold tonight." For the first time, Rena whispered a word. "Thank you." Tarek looked at her. A small nod. Then silence again. That night, Rena curled under the two blankets. She did not hide her face. She watched the fire in the small heater flicker. In her mind, the old stories of humans began to crack. Maybe not all were monsters. Maybe some just wanted peace, to dot, and maybe, just maybe, she had been given not as a gift to be broken but a chance to find something new, something better. Rena still did not trust him, even though Tarek had not hurt her, shouted, or forced her to do anything. She could not remove the fear that lived inside her chest. It had lived there since the day she was taken from her family. It had grown during the long flight to this planet. It had whispered to her every time she saw a human soldier. Even now, when Tarek walked past her without saying a word, the fear would rise again. Tarek was always quiet. He only spoke when needed. Rena had never met someone like him before. She had imagined humans to be loud, sharp, full of commands and demands. But Tarek was none of those things. He fixed things, cleaned his tools, ate quietly, and gave her food without asking questions. Still, Rena stayed alert. She watched him closely, every movement, every sound. One day, Tarek returned from outside with a small round object. It was a heating stone, used during dessert nights. He placed it near her blanket corner and turned to leave. Rena stared at it, unsure. Was it safe? Was it a trick? Tarek noticed her staring. "It's warm," he said simply. "You're always cold." Rena didn't reply. She waited until he was asleep before touching it. It was warm, not hot, just enough to make the corner feel safe. She wrapped her hands around it and closed her eyes. For the first time, she slept deeply. The next morning, she woke before him. She saw Tarek lying on his bed, his arm across his face. His breathing was calm. She stood slowly and walked to the other side of the shelter. She looked at the tools he used: wires, metal pieces, small glowing lights. Nothing looked like a weapon, just parts. She touched a tiny square chip. It lit up in blue. Suddenly, Tarek moved. Rena stepped back fast, nearly tripping. But he only sat up and rubbed his eyes. He didn't seem angry. "You're curious," he said, voice low from sleep. Rena looked at the floor and nodded once. He stood and walked over him. He picked up the chip she had touched. "This is a power cell," he said. He placed it gently back in the tray. "For drones, not dangerous." Rena looked up. "What is a drone?" Tarek blinked. He was quiet for a second, then picked up a flat device. He turned it on. A small floating bot lifted into the air. It had round eyes and tiny arms. "Drone," he said. "Helper." The little drone hovered near Rena. She stepped back, but it didn't attack. It simply blinked its lights and beeped once. Then it returned to its dock and shut down. Rena stared. Tarek put the device away and turned to make food. That day, something changed in the shelter. Rena no longer sat in silence. She began to ask questions. Small ones, careful ones. "What is that? Why do you use this? What does this word mean?" Tarek answered simply. "Never too much, never too fast." He didn't laugh at her. He didn't tell her to stop. He answered each question like it was normal. One afternoon, he offered her a small book. It was old and had simple pictures inside: animals, trees, planets, names in human language. For learning, he said. Rena took it with both hands. "You want me to learn your words?" Tarek nodded once. "If you want." She opened the book and looked at the first page, a picture of a bird. Under it, the word bird. She whispered it to herself. "Bird." That night, while Tarek worked on repairing the heater. Rena sat beside the soft light of the corner lamp and read the book. Page after page, she found a picture of a flower, a cat, a mountain. She repeated the words softly. Tarek looked over once. He didn't smile, but his eyes stayed on her for a moment longer than usual. The days passed. Rena began to help him with small tasks. She brought tools when he asked. She cleaned the floor without being told. She watched the drone and learned how it responded to simple commands. She even started eating with Tarek, though she still sat a little farther away. But deep inside, the fear had not vanished. It had only grown quiet. One evening, a new sound echoed outside, a sharp hum. Tarek stood quickly. He looked at the radar on the wall and frowned. "What is it?" Rena asked, her voice unsure. Tarek didn't answer right away. He grabbed a scanner and looked through the narrow window. "Just a sand beast," he said. "Big, but far away." Rena walked to his side. "A sand beast?" Tarek pointed to the screen. "A large shape moved across the outer field. They roam during evening. They don't come near unless there's food." Rena looked at him. "You're not afraid?" He shook his head. "They fear fire and noise." She watched the screen for a long moment, then said, "You know many things." Tarek paused. "I've lived here a long time." Rena turned to him. "Alone?" Tarek gave a small nod. "Mostly." That night, the wind grew stronger again. The heater worked, but the walls rattled. Rena lay under her blankets, holding the warm stone, listening to the sound. Suddenly, she whispered, "Tarek." He looked over from his bed. "You didn't ask for me, right?" He shook his head. "No." "Do you want me to leave?" He was quiet for a moment. "No." Rena pulled the blanket tighter. "I thought you would eat me." Tarek sat up a little, surprised. "Why?" She looked at the ceiling. "That's what they said. That humans take people and eat them." Tarek did not laugh. He didn't even look shocked. He only said, "That's not true." "I know now," Rena said softly. "But I didn't know then." Tarek leaned back on his bed. "You can stay. Here. Safe." Rena's eyes closed. "Thank you." For the first time, she believed him. The days on Vero 9 were quiet, but the nights were colder now. Each evening, the sunless sky darkened into deep blue, and sharp winds blew across the sand. Inside the small shelter, Rena pulled her blankets close and watched the heater flicker. She still didn't feel fully safe, but she no longer felt like a prisoner. She was beginning to feel something new. Not fear, not anger, something else. Tarek continued to move through each day with calm. He repaired cables, checked the weather panels, and wrote short reports to the command center. He didn't talk much, but when he did, he always chose simple words. He always spoke clearly. Rena had come to understand his silence wasn't cold, it was steady. It gave her space. It gave her peace. One evening, the shelter lights blinked. Then they went out. Rena sat up quickly, heart jumping. "What's happening?" Tarek grabbed a flashlight and moved to the wall screen. He tapped the controls, then shook his head. "Storm," he said. "Sandstorm coming fast. Knock the main power out." He opened a metal box near the floor and pulled out dry wood and a small heater dish. Rena watched, nervous, as he built a small fire in the dish and placed it in the center of the room. A soft orange light spread across the floor. The storm outside grew louder. Wind slammed against the metal walls, making the shelter shake. Rena sat closer to the fire, wrapping her blanket around her legs. Tarek handed her a warm cup. "What is it?" she asked. "Broth. Hot. No poison," he said, almost with a tiny smile. Rena looked at the cup. She remembered the first time he gave her food. She had feared it, but now her hands reached for it without hesitation. She sipped slowly. It was salty, warm, and gentle. "This is good," she said. Tarek nodded and sat across from her. For a long time, they said nothing. The fire cracked softly. The wind outside howled like some lost creature, but inside, the shelter felt calm. Rena looked at Tarek. "Why do you stay here?" "It's lonely." Tarek sipped his own cup. "Not always. You had others here before." He shook his head. Some. They left, got new posts. I stayed. Why? He paused, then said, I like the quiet. Rena nodded slowly. It is quiet here. I thought it would make me feel worse, but it doesn't. She looked at the small firelight dancing on the wall. The flames were soft and warm, not wild like the fires used during battles. This was different. This was for life, not destruction. She turned her eyes toward the top window. Through the small glass square, stars twinkled in the sky. I can see the stars, she whispered. Tarek looked up too. Clear night after storms, he said. No clouds, just open sky. Rena moved closer to the window and stood on her toes. To look out, the desert beyond the base stretched far and wide. The stars above looked bigger than she had ever seen before. On my world, she said. The trees glow at night. The leaves shine like lights. Tarek raised his eyebrows a little. Glow? She nodded. Not from fire, from the tree itself. We don't need lights in the forest. Everything shines softly. That sounds peaceful. It was. Before the war. Tarek leaned back, staring at the ceiling. I don't remember much peace, only small moments. Rena sat down again. Is this one of them? He looked at her. His eyes were quiet, like always. But something in them had changed. Yes, he said. It is. They sat in silence again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was shared. Later that night, the wind began to fade. The fire still burned low. Rena felt sleep pulling at her. But something made her speak again. Do you think the war will return? Tarek thought about it. I hope not. But if it does, what will happen to me? He turned his eyes toward her. His voice was firm. I will protect you. Rena's chest tightened. She looked at him, trying to read his face. It didn't change. It was serious, honest. Why? She asked. Because I made a promise. To who? To myself. He said. Rena looked at the fire. Its light made soft shapes on the floor. She didn't know what to say, but she felt something growing inside her. Not fear, not doubt, trust, small, like a seed, but real. That night, when she lay under her blankets, she didn't hold the knife she had hidden on the first day. She didn't need it. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, He is not a monster. He is not what they said. The storm passed by morning. The power returned. The shelter buzzed back to life. Machines clicked and lights blinked back on. But Rena kept thinking about the fire, the broth, and the stars. She began to believe that this strange desert world was not her prison. It might be something else. Something she had never thought possible. A beginning. The air on Vero 9 stayed dry and silent. Morning light never came from a real sun, but from the sky panels above the clouds. It was always soft gray, always the same. But something had changed inside the small shelter. Rena now moved freely. She no longer stayed in her corner. She cleaned the food table, organized the tools, and even spoke a little more each day. Tarek didn't stop her. He let her help, let her ask questions, and sometimes showed her how to use things she had never seen before. One morning, Tarek sat fixing a broken sensor panel on the floor. Rena came and sat beside him. Can I help? She asked. He nodded and passed her a small tool. Hold this in place. She did. Her hands were steady. Now press this button when I say. She waited. Now, she pressed the button. The panel lit up with green lights. You did it, he said. She smiled for the first time that day. Tarek reached into his toolbox. You learn fast. I want to learn, Rena said. It helps me forget. He glanced at her. Forget. What? She lowered her eyes. The war. My home. The fear. He didn't say anything. But the silence between them was not cold. It was full of understanding. Later, while Tarek worked on the power cables outside, Rena stayed inside with the drone. She had named it Kiko. The little bot beeped every time she gave a voice command. Kiko. Light, she said. The drone turned on a small light from its side. Kiko. Off. The light turned off. She laughed. Ek returned, wiping dust from his face. You taught it your words. She nodded proudly. It listens to me now. He looked at the drone. That's good. It never listened to me. That night, Tarek opened a small packet from his old storage box. Inside were simple seeds, plants that grew even in poor soil. Rena came closer. What are those? Food seeds, Tarek said. We grow them here. Better than dry packs. Can I plant one? He handed her a seed and pointed to a soil pot near the window. Make a small hole. Place it gently, then cover it. Rena followed his instructions. Her fingers touched the dry soil with care. She planted the seed, covered it, and looked up at him. Done. Now we wait, he said. They stood side by side, looking at the small pot. Rena whispered, Will it really grow? Tarek replied, If we take care of it. In the following days, they built a small routine. Tarek handled outside systems and patrols, while Rena cleaned, organized, and learned new things inside. She even tried cooking one evening using a human food pack, though the result was strange, and to salty. Tarek ate it without complaint. Rena smiled. You don't have to pretend it's good. It's not bad, he said. Better than dry cubes. She laughed again. Every night, before sleeping, Rena read from the small book he had given her. She pointed at words and tried to say them correctly. Tarek helped her when she got stuck. Sky. She said one night, tapping the picture. Good. Tree. Correct. She looked at him. Tarek, what does your name mean? He paused. It doesn't have a meaning. It's just a name. In my language, names mean something. Mine means clear water. That's a good name, he said. I don't think so. I used to hate it. I wanted to be like my sister. Her name means stormbird. That sounded stronger. Clear water is strong too, Tarek said. It doesn't shout, but it shapes the land. Rena looked at him, surprised. Then she looked down and said softly, Thank you. Another night, she asked, What is Earth like? Tarek looked at the ceiling. It's blue, green, full of trees and animals. The air smells like rain. There are oceans that move with the moon. Have you seen an ocean? Yes. Once. Is it big? It never ends, he said. When you stand near it, you feel very small, but also calm. I want to see it one day. Maybe you will. One morning, Rena woke up early and went outside with Tarek for the first time. She wore a scarf to block the wind and held his old pair of goggles. The desert stretched all around them. The sand was pale gold, and the sky above was a soft silver. Tarek showed her the towers that caught energy from the sky. He explained how they worked, how storms sometimes damaged them, and how he repaired the wires. You do all this alone? She asked. Not anymore. Rena looked up. Her scarf flapped in the wind, and her eyes narrowed against the brightness. This world is quiet, she said, but not empty. Tarek nodded. You see it now. They walked back to the shelter. Slowly, Rena's footsteps left soft marks in the sand beside his. When they reached the door, she turned to him. Why are you kind to me? Tarek didn't answer right away. He looked at the ground, then at her. You were afraid of me. I could see it. I wanted to show you you don't have to be. She stared at him, eyes wide. But why? Because I know what fear feels like. Rena felt her heart beat faster. You were afraid to. He nodded. Different reason. But yes, she stepped forward. And who helped you? He looked at her. No one. I had to carry it alone, she said. Then maybe I can help you now. He didn't reply, but his silence was full of meaning. That evening, they sat by the small plant pot. A tiny green sprout had pushed through the soil. Rena clapped her hands softly. It's growing. Tarek smiled just a little. Yes, it's alive. She looked at him and said, We made it grow together. And he nodded. The quiet days on Vero 9 had begun to feel normal. Rena and Tarek worked together like a small team. The tiny plant sprout in the pot was growing slowly, and the drone, Kiko, followed Rena around as if it were her small friend. But peace on the desert planet never lasted long. One afternoon, while Tarek was repairing a broken antenna outside, the alarm sounded sharply inside the base. A red light flashed on the wall, and a loud warning beep echoed through the rooms. Rena froze, her heart beating fast. She did not know what the alarm meant. She had never heard such a sound before. Tarek immediately stopped what he was doing and ran inside. He grabbed a scanner from the wall and looked at the small screen. His face became serious. "We have an incoming signal," he said. "Warning, Shari rebels. They are close." Rena's eyes widened. "Rebels? Who are they?" "Some Shari soldiers who don't agree with the peace treaty," Tarek explained. "They think their leaders gave us away." Rena's fingers clenched. "They want to take me back." Tarek looked at her, calm but firm. Maybe. Rena felt a cold wave inside her. She thought she was safe now, but this warning changed everything. Tarek checked the weapons locker and brought out his old rifle. He looked at Rena. "You must stay inside. It might get dangerous." She shook her head. "I'm not a child." He nodded slowly. "I know, but this is serious." The base's command center sent more messages. The rebels were moving fast. They wanted to capture the outpost and take Rena back to the ship. Tarek began to prepare. He set traps near the entrance and checked the power systems. Rena watched, nervous but ready. "Can I help?" she asked. Tarek hesitated. "Maybe. You know Shari tech better than I do." "Can you try to block their signals?" Rena nodded. "I will try." She sat at the small console and started working on the jammer device. She connected wires and typed commands. Her fingers moved quickly but carefully. Tarek watched her, trusting her. Good. Outside, the sky was gray and full of wind. The desert was empty, but danger was coming. After a few minutes, Rena smiled faintly. "The jamming is working. They cannot send messages to each other. That will slow them down." Tarek said. But then the lights flickered. The base shook slightly as if a small blast hit the outer wall. "They are close," Tarek said quietly. The rebels had arrived. Tarek and Rena moved to the secure room, where they could watch the situation on the cameras. On the screen, shadowy figures moved through the dunes, their armor dark and sharp. They carried weapons and strange devices. Rena's heart pounded. Tarek checked his rifle and gave her a small smile. "Stay close." The rebels reached the outer gate. They tried to break through the metal doors. Tarek activated the traps. Small nets and electric barriers rose quickly. The rebels cursed and fired. The barriers held. Rena watched as Tarek moved silently through the base, closing doors and securing weak points. She helped by sending false signals through the jammer, confusing the rebels' sensors. Minutes passed like hours. Suddenly, one of the walls shook. A rebel soldier had broken through a side door. Tarek rushed to meet him. The two fought, their weapons clashing. Rena stood nearby, ready to help. The fight was tense but short. Tarek disarmed the rebel and held him down. "We don't want to hurt you," Tarek said firmly. The rebel struggled, then stopped. "Give me back the girl." "She is not yours," Tarek replied. "She is safe here." The rebel looked angry but said nothing more. Other rebels tried to push forward, but Tarek's traps and Rena's jamming slowed them. Finally, human patrol ships arrived. They landed outside the base with bright lights and loud engines. The rebels, seeing they were outnumbered, retreated quickly into their ships and fled. The base was safe again. Tarek turned to Rena. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No." He smiled softly. "You were brave." Rena felt a new strength inside her. She had helped protect the place she now called home. That night, after the warning ended, they sat together near the small fire. "I thought you would leave me," Rena said quietly. Tarek shook his head. "I told you, I'm not leaving you." She looked at him with eyes full of trust. "Thank you." Tarek placed a warm hand on her shoulder. "We survived together." The desert wind outside was calm now. The stars shone clearly in the sky. For the first time, Rena believed that peace was more than a word. It was something they built every day, together. The desert sky glowed faintly with the light of distant stars. The wind had died down, but the air was still tense. The warning from earlier had shaken the base. Everyone knew the Shari rebels might return at any moment. Tarek and Rena stayed alert, ready for whatever came next. Rena felt different now. She was no longer just a scared girl who feared humans. She had learned to trust Tarek, to work with him. When the rebels attacked, she had helped stop them. That gave her strength. Tarek moved through the shelter quietly. He checked weapons, repaired broken walls, and watched the monitors. Rena followed him, eager to help. "We need to hold this place," Tarek said. "If we lose this base, the peace talks fail." Rena nodded. "I want to help." Tarek smiled. "Good. I need your skills." Together, they planned. Rena showed Tarek how to use Shari technology to confuse enemy scanners. Tarek explained how to set traps and create barriers. The base hummed with energy. Lights blinked on control panels. The drone Kiko flew overhead, watching for danger. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. The rebels were back. This time, they came in stronger numbers. They moved swiftly across the sand. Weapons ready, Tarek and Rena took their positions near the entrance. The small plant in the pot sat safely on a shelf, its green leaves glowing softly. The first wave of rebels reached the barrier. Electric nets rose quickly, blocking their path. Rena worked the jammer, sending confusing signals. Rebel scanners blinked and failed. Tarek fired carefully, aiming to disable without harm. The rebels shouted, but their progress slowed. One of the rebels tried to climb over the barrier. Tarek shot a small net, capturing him gently but firmly. Rena called out, "Tarek, more coming from the left." Tarek nodded and moved to the side door. Rena ran to help close the heavy metal shutters. The rebels pushed hard, but the base held. Inside, the human patrol forces prepared to support them. Lights flashed and radios crackled with orders. Rena's heart raced, but she stayed calm. She watched the monitors, guiding Tarek where help was needed most. The rebels grew frustrated. They tried to use their advanced tech to break the defenses. Rena quickly adapted. She used the Shari devices in the base to block their signals. "We're blocking their comms," she shouted. Tarek smiled. "Good work. Ours passed like this." The rebels attacked again and again, but the base stood firm finally. The human reinforcements arrived in full force. Their ships landed near the base with bright spotlights. The rebels saw the ships and knew they were outnumbered. They retreated quickly, disappearing into the desert night. Tarek lowered his rifle and walked to Rena. "You did well," he said softly. She smiled, tired but proud. "I was scared before," she said, "but now I am ready." Tarek looked at the little plant. Life grows even in harsh places. Rena touched the green leaves gently. "We grow too," she said. The quiet after the battle was peaceful. Stars shone brightly through the windows. The dessert was calm. Rena and Tarek sat near the fire, sharing a warm drink. "You stayed," Rena said. "I promised," Tarek replied. She looked at him with new trust. "We survived together." And in that moment, the alien girl who once feared being eaten found hope and friendship in a human soldier. The days passed quietly after the last attack. The desert air was soft and warm under the pale sky. The base was calm again, but something had changed between Tarek and Rena. They were no longer just soldier and gift. They were something more: friends, allies, maybe even family. Rena had grown strong. The small plant in the pot now had many green leaves. It reached toward the soft light near the window. She cared for it every day. It was a symbol of hope, something alive and growing in a place that once felt empty. Tarek watched her carefully. He no longer saw a scared alien girl. He saw a brave person who had survived much and learned to trust. One morning, a message arrived from command. Tarek was being transferred to a larger base on a nearby planet. The message said he could bring someone with him. Tarek thought about it long and hard. He looked at Rena, who was reading her language book, practicing new words. "Do you want to come with me?" he asked quietly. Rena looked up, surprised. "Me? Yes, I can take you. You don't have to stay here alone." She thought about her home, her family, and the long journey ahead. Then she smiled. "Yes," she said. "I want to come." The preparations began quickly. The human base helped Rena learn more about human life. She studied their language, their customs, and the way they worked together. Tarek taught her how to use new equipment. He showed her the stars in the new planet's sky. They talked about dreams about the future. On the day of departure, Rena packed her small belongings. She looked around the shelter, feeling a strange mix of sadness and hope. Tarek stood by the door. "Ready? Are you ready?" he asked. Rena nodded. "I am." They walked together to the shuttle. The engines hummed softly. The stars shone above. As the shuttle lifted off, Rena looked back at Vero 9 one last time. It was no longer just a cold desert planet. It was a place where she had found trust and friendship. When they arrived at the new base, people greeted them with curiosity. Some asked about the alien girl who had once been given as a gift. Rena laughed softly. "I was a gift once. Now, I'm just me." Tarek smiled. "And I'm glad she's with me." They began a new life together. Rena learned more about humans. She shared stories about her people. She helped Tarek and others in their work slowly. The walls between species grew smaller. The past of war and fear gave way to a future of understanding. One night, as they sat beneath the stars on the new planet, Rena looked at Tarek. "Thank you for staying," she said. He looked at her with steady eyes. "I never left," she smiled, and rested her head on his shoulder. They both knew their journey was just beginning. Together, they were no longer a gift or a prisoner. They were a choice, a new family, strong and free.